Britt, when you think about wellness, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, I like to think of wellness from a more holistic standpoint. So it's not just sort of the absence of illness as much as it's, that plus feeling healthy financially, feeling healthy in my career, feeling healthy in my relationships. So I kind of look at wellness as an embodiment of like every aspect of life and the health of your life. So one of the things that I think is really helpful when thinking about wellness and from that perspective is sort of the wheel that we use. So assessing, doing a quick assessment of every aspect of our life, and instead of maybe asking how satisfied are you, the question can be, how healthy do you feel this is in your life? And so when I think about wellness for myself or for my clients, that's something that I often will comes up in my head is, thinking about that wheel and how we can use that to make that assessment.
That's a great point, isn't it? It's sometimes we can think about wellness through one lens or, well-being, yet there's so many different pieces and there's lots of different wheels out there. I love to use wheel of life, but there is a specific wellness wheel as well, isn't there, in the wellness coaching program? If you were to pick a wedge to focus on, Britt, what comes to mind for you?
Oh man, that's a great question. I think I would say, I don't know how I would describe this, but almost like just like personal organization, like having my mind organized. So I was, as you were talking earlier, I was thinking about, you were saying like, oh, the new year starts with great intentions. And I agree. And I was doing fantastic the first 6 weeks of this year. And then my husband and I got a puppy. And things have slowly started getting back to a routine, but I had nailed down I started before the new year, had this really good routine, and I felt like my thoughts and what I needed to do with my life were really organized. And, a puppy just adds a lot of chaos. And I always think it's funny to say chaos too, because that's actually what his name was before we renamed him, was Chaos. And it's true, he brought lots of chaos into our lives. And he's a great dog, but he's a German Shepherd, so he needs a lot of extra attention. And so I was thinking about how what you were saying, there's always something that gets in the way. And I think one of the things that I've been really struggling with and trying to work on is, recognizing that now, like the first month or two, like that's going to get in the way. But once we establish a routine, I kind of fell off of keeping up with the routine I had made for myself. So if there was an aspect of wellness I would want to focus on, it would be sort of that mental sort of calm or organization that I think I had a lot of way back when and has sort of fallen off. What about you? If you were thinking about a wedge, what would you sort of think about?
Well, this is interesting because you got me thinking, because as you're talking, I'm thinking, which part of the wedge would it be? I had a look at a few different wheels because I was curious about what these wheels could look like. So, we've got this emotional wellness, maybe it's environmental wellness, physical, intellectual wellness, occupational wellness. For me, I would say social wellness. That is the one that always falls off for me anyway. I live in the US, family is in the UK, moved here 7 years ago, and I've still got great friends that are over there, and I've moved here a couple of times. And not that I don't have great friends, but I do 100% of my work online. So work with people all over the world, and it's great, and I love it, and it means that I can reach more people. Yeah, I am also a bit of an introvert, and I think even after COVID, we have, with everything being closed down, probably traveled less, seeing people less, and it's quite easy for me to become a little bit of a hermit, you know, if I don't actively push myself to leave the house. And then I think in the work that we do as well, and I think a lot of coaches would probably resonate as well, you are holding space for people all the time, and you are listening all the time. And I love coaching. I actually I'm a consultant, facilitator, and mentor as well. Coaching doesn't feel hard, yet you're talking to people all day, every day. So it's how do you create the distinction in a difference between relationships outside of work as well. So one, for me, I need to be more proactive and reaching out to friends and arranging things and going to see people. And the other thing is sometimes I've had to joke with friends and people and say, I'm off duty. I'm not in coach mode.
Yeah. I would totally agree with you on, you know, I'm a big personality assessment person. I love personality assessments, and I started to take them regularly. And before COVID, I ranked really high on levels of extroversion. And after COVID, I rank a little bit higher now on levels of introversion. And it's just interesting how, like, being forced to be more introverted sort of, you know, I can feel that my thinking has changed in how I approach wanting or not wanting to be social. And I am a little bit more protective with my time, similar to what you were just saying. So it makes sense that I think this brings up a good point that, you know, there are going to be moments in our lives, things that happen in our lives. COVID is a big, huge example of a collective thing we all experience, but there are certainly smaller things that happen in our lives that might change how we approach our wellness and what we need and don't need from each of those wedges.
And thinking about personality assessments or core motivation as well, you know, I am a helper at the core. I've had perfectionist traits as well, yet I don't want to be a helper all the time. I don't want to be that in my spare time as well. And I've had to learn to set boundaries and think about who am I outside of being a coach and my career and my work, which is so up there. It's my life's work. It's so important to me. Yet I don't always want to be in that space. And I think it's important as part of wellness that we surround ourselves with people that can lift us up and are there to listen to us. Otherwise, it's really easy to be in that role, isn't it? And, you know, I used to find myself when I wasn't setting boundaries, I'd go to a coffee shop, it would be empty, and I'd be the only person sitting there, and the person who had a challenge or a problem or needed to talk to someone would find me. Like, I was a magnet.
Oh man.
And then, you know, you can't serve from an empty vessel, can you?
No.